Hello, what's up, everybody on the desk? Thank you for bringing us in, Zoe. I mean, it's awesome to hear the Land Terrain are favorites. Obviously, previously, when I was on the team, we were more underdogs, and somehow, some way, they've become a super team. So that's quite insane to watch. The fact that they are going against the New York Excelsior, one of the, in the history of Overwatch, best teams, to actually be the favorites in this match is quite a surprise, isn't it, Moxie?
I mean, like you said, Land Terrain have collected a super team. Like, literally, I think the best way to describe the pickups that they've been able to find is just assembling the Infinity Gauntlet. They've been able to grab both Chio and Fielder from Dallas Fuel, the previous winning support lineup for the 2022 season, Donghak coming in as well. Previously, he was under the age of 17. However, now that Overwatch League has allowed 17-year-olds to be able to integrate into the league, he's been picked up from Korean contenders. As a result, we're going to be seeing, I think, a little bit more dive compositions coming through. The desk was saying that we saw him in the Pro-Am where he wanted to play things like the Wrecking Ball, when we would actually see Hawk come through and play things like the Diva and the Ramatra. And starting off in Ilios, it feels like we can see why Atlanta are immediately going to be assembling that dive composition as opposed to trying to move towards that ramp roll.
Yeah, I think that as they progress as well, I mean, I've talked to Hawk outside of the scene. I was like, how are you communicating with these guys? Have you learned a whole lot of Korean? And he was like, no, I've only learned like maybe 5-6 words, and I can kind of understand what they want to do at times, but maybe just having that language barrier could be also impacting them. Or, I mean, like you said, Moxie, potentially just the fact that Donghak, fantastic Winston player, maybe that's why they want to run him.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like, it does come down, I think, to a lot of region as well. Korean dive is incredibly aggressive, and you're going to have both Lip and Stalker. Lip obviously going onto that Sombra or Tracer after using that Symmetra TP. Stalker on the Echo to immediately be able to follow up on these dives to come through. When Atlanta and pick a target, they're going to fully commit 3 players onto taking them down.
Stalker already trying to deal with Kellen over the top of that high ground, and the dive actually comes through early from Donghak to land immediately onto Creative to find him that first pick. He does, however, Lip also continues onto Halo, even though they did lose Stalker in that same fight, as Donghak's just kind of rotating and finding each pick as he rotates. So great work from the Atlanta Reign to win that first fight.
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough spot as well for Excelsior to try and find themselves out of, given that Stalker doesn't have hit scan opposing him at the moment, so he can wait for Excelsior. If they try and challenge point, they're walking right into the dive, but if they try and challenge the high ground to be able to push onto either Fielder or Chio, they're walking straight into the Echo, just dropping down. But Psycho finds Lip, and immediately that opens things up. You don't have a Tracer to be able to like perimeter for your backline. Excelsior can just challenge the point.
Yeah, Psycho just kind of rotating around that point while also dealing with Donghak over the top, and the anti-grenade came through and landed on his Stalker and Fielder, allowing Kellen to follow through, and New York Excelsior flipped the point through that anti-grenade from Creative and dive of Kellen.
Yeah, losing Lip for Rain is really unfortunate because Excelsior go on to that point knowing that the Tracer can't come and contest it. Instead, it's got to be other members of Rain, and no one is really mobile enough, so they have to send Chio as a package deal to try and use the Break Shield to block that damage and anti-nade coming through from Excelsior's side, allowing Excelsior to be able to pick apart Rain's isolated forces. Now, however, it's going to be battle off the Tracers. They've both got a Pulse Bomb. Who's going to find the better value from it?
Both kind of waiting for it. Kellen did jump onto the high ground to use that Winston bubble, and drop off could enable Lip, but Lip's just trying to pressure this point in kind of a 1v2 with Fitz and Seiko. Seiko's actually used the pulse bomb, but unfortunately did miss. However, Stalker does fall on the Echo to Seiko and Kellen. At the same time, Chio's taking out Kellen on that point, while Chio has that nano boost, so can kind of just run down everybody of the New York Excelsior. They flip that point, and the New York Excelsior actually kind of back off. Try to wait for Kellen, but a sleep dart came through. Can they get the damage? Unfortunately not. Seiko does back out of there and head to the cage side to find Donghak with Fitz. So this is kind of turning on the Atlanta Reign's head right now as the New York Excelsior relocate towards this point as a group. As 4, they've officially rotated all the way over here, getting that point flipped almost. No, they don't actually flip it. The rally is popped. Chio's was committed earlier, so his eventually runs out as Halo kind of running around this point. They flipped it at the same time. New York Excelsior's Donghak was slept and hacked, but Fielder does trade back Creative after the sleep dart came through, and Lip also connects onto Halo. So in this fight, Atlanta Reign are flipping it.
Yeah, really good rally coming through from Halo. She actually makes sure she rallies when Rain's backs are to the environmental knockoff, so they can't risk going into the shield map, into that break wheel follow through. So they do allow Excelsior to push forward and stall up to 69% of that point. Rain, however, now in control and building, are going to have stall ultimates themselves. If they find themselves getting pressured, if they find themselves losing plays before these fights properly begin, because they're picked off by either Psycho or Fitz, they have the primal to be able to make sure that they equalize and continue to build in that point percentage.
Stalker with the copy, building towards that EMP in the copy form, but cannot do it just yet, and actually just forced out of this copy. And York Excelsior, they do have some ultimates to work with here, so this game so far is a bit closer than I think people would have expected, but with Stalker, you know, off of that Tracer and onto that Echo, maybe things would act differently. York Excelsior, Mox, you know, they have EMP, but at the same time, Dawnhack just lands immediately onto Fitz, who was trying to set that up, and now they're at 92% of the board for the Atlanta Reign, so they're in a massive advantage in the current situation. So Dawnhack commits the Primal Rage to continue their dominance at the moment as Fielder connects on the Psycho as well, and I don't think anybody from York Excelsior could even touch, so it seems like they're just holding on to EMP and Nano for next round.
Yeah, EMP is brilliant as an ultimate when you're in control of that point, because you have to bait everyone to actually walk onto that point to find the flip, and that means that the EMP is going to hit so many of them. As a team that's trying to aggress in with an EMP, however, and with Rain running such a mobile composition, you really do just have to try and pick out one target with the EMP, most normally the backline that gets locked down. If you're running something like a Kiriko or an Ana, we see Sombras just commit the one EMP to be able to take them down immediately, but Rain just makes sure that Fitz is not able to find his way into the backline. Dawnhack's doing a very good job on the Winston of controlling all of those lanes, so that Excelsior, even though they're the only ones running a Sombra, just aren't able to find those entrances, aren't able to take Fielder or Chio down or even pressure them before the fight begins, and that's going to have to be something that they're able to do on this map, on WELL. We have to see more backline pressure from Excelsior's side.
And York Excelsior are going to have to, like you mentioned, just pressure that backline. But at the same time, they're kind of just playing back and waiting for the Atlanta Reign to be the first ones to make that aggressive push. However, now Kellen now rotates in towards that cage, try to find that dive in the backline, but is also forced to use that Winston bubble quite early. So the jump back is going to have to happen, taking a whole lot of damage. Surely is going to fall here to the Atlanta Reign. No, the pocket from Creative and Halo is enough to keep Kellen alive. So great work from that backline, but Halo is slept and then taken out by Lip. So the Fielder and Lip combination comes through, and Dawnhack also connects on to Creative. So Atlanta Reign take that point first, and they want more.
Yeah, Excelsior, there is no proactivity coming through from them. You can see it in the way that both of these Sombras use their first hacks, right? Lip's first hack is onto Kellen, and by the time he's actually hacked Kellen out twice, all Fitz has done is run around Rain's backline in stealth form to find the information of where they're playing from, and unfortunately, you just don't get to actually formulate the dive off of that intel, because it's Kellen who's being hacked, and it's Kellen who has to make the first move. Rain getting to play aggressive, pushing Excelsior now. They have to act. Fielder takes Fitz down. The Ana is going to stay standing. Rain is still going to be in control of this point, and they're going to have the nano boost to put onto Dawnhack if they find even more pressure, as the boss one does attach, and Dawnhack finally goes down. This has to be Excelsior moving onto the back line, but Fielder and Chio are still up.
Yeah, they're still up. That was a weird combination of events that happened. You know, Kellen, or EMP now comes out from Lip. We'll talk about it after. In EMP into the main, they actually don't get those kills necessarily because York Excelsior disengage it, but, you know, really interesting series of events because Fitz took down Lip early in that fight, and then Fielder with a sleep dart equalizes. And now that Nano comes out, but a sleep dart onto Kellen. However, he's immediately woken up. At the same time, Stalker has traded back their Tracer counterpart of Seiko, but now York Excelsior with a counter EMP on that dive of the Atlanta Reign connects onto everybody of the dive, resulting in the York Excelsior reclaiming this point.
Well, that's the second time in this series that both Fielder and Chio have died so far. And it's a resulting win for Excelsior. So again, like, you really do just have to continue to pile this pressure onto the backline, especially now that Reign don't have things like the nano boost or the sound bar to peel when Excelsior try and formulate these aggressive dives. They can't allow Reign to dictate the tempo of this next dive. And really nice to see Kellen takes that movement, takes away the high ground. Reign are forced to back out.
Yeah, they're forced to play safe, but, you know, who's not playing safe is Stalker. With that dive of Dawnhack, they've dove Halo already, and now Kellen just trying to pressure out Fielder. The sleep dart was unfortunately hitting that Winston bubble, so it doesn't connect onto the Winston, but the peel is here yet again for the Atlanta Reign. Kellen does make that jump away, but the point eventually will be flipped here. Seiko does fall to Dawnhack and actually quick rotate, even though York Excelsior surely wanted some stall.
Yeah, Excelsior just not able to find the soul, and in fact, if they try and take Rain in these isolated fights 1 versus 1, all they're doing is stalling for their opponents. Rain continues to build up point percentage, and Excelsior, being so split in that fight, have barely scratched the surface of ultimate economy. For this next one, they're walking straight into an EMP as well in this final fight. Rain literally just get to sit back and wait for New York Excelsior to serve themselves up on a silver platter, and there's nothing they can do. They can't stop contesting this point, otherwise they give up the map just in overtime.
It feels like Fitz's entire role is just to find Lip's translocator, just to be an annoyance to him, but he doesn't even care. Just waiting towards that main. Now crosses the translocator all the way back towards the mini health pack, just playing kind of a bodyguard on this point. Seiko does come through to touch the point, but eventually we'll have to recall out of there as Donghack gets that nano, pressures that backline, and also finds Seiko. Kellen falls to Lip too, and the York Excelsior, they forced to use a nano onto Halo, and they can't even touch the point at the end of it. The Atlanta Reign will win map number 1.
Yeah, I think like we can see a couple of problems from New York Excelsior's side, especially that dive. Like if you're running a dive, especially if you're running alongside a Sombra and a Tracer, you have the means of follow-up. You have to, when you send that Sombra in for that first fight, find a hack. Even if you're just running around, hack somebody, hack Chio, so that when a dive comes through from Atlanta Reign side, they at least don't have a Lucio to be able to enact upon it immediately, and you can maybe punish the fact that they're all stuffed up in that side room. But it doesn't happen because, again, Kellen gets hacked back to back. So there is just no punishment for Atlanta Reign getting to play aggressive with Lip on the Sombra and speeding up to that EMP.
Yeah, I'm curious if the New York Excelsior can make some adjustments, leading into the following maps. But in that map number 1, Mox, like you said, it was just not going their way. The Atlanta Reign just continually setting up those dives, and even though, nice nano by the way from Fielder in the highlight, but even though they kept trying to just counter Lip on the Sombra with that translocator, just sending Fitz consistently going back, it just never resulted in them getting a fight win. And for the next map of Blizzard World, let's see if it can actually go in their favor after a short break. So we'll be right back in just a second for Blizzard World. Welcome back, everybody. What a fantastic series we have. The York Excelsior attempting to put up a fight against the Atlanta Reign, who have so far looked amazing with their tank player of Donghak, but he's also going to be subbed out now for Hawk. You know, obviously one of the best players in the league, and just a little bit of a, John Anik interesting fact about Hawk. He actually doesn't eat vegetables sometimes, Moxie, actually. I talked to his dad, and his dad was like, I was like, hey, why doesn't your son eat vegetables? He'd just say, hey, Hawk doesn't want to. He doesn't eat vegetables. So hopefully on Blizzard World, he maybe gets a big feeling or a filling of meat alongside Lip. Moxie, you wanted to talk about him, right? One of the best DPS players, one of the best Sombra players in the game. I'm sure Hawk and the rest of the Atlanta Reign very happy to play around this guy.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the stat differential as well between Lip and Fitz, Lip playing a much more proactive Sombra comes in setting 7,128 damage, and that aggression, it's reflected in what New York Excelsior were able to do. Creative on the Ana dies 4 times, Halo on the Brigitte unfortunately goes down 5 times as well, and then Atlanta Reign, Fielder dies twice in the entire 2 submaps. And it's because Fitz is just playing not so much a positive Sombra, but playing for information to be able to better equip New York Excelsior for the dives to come through. They know just how good Reign are on those dives, so they wanted to have that full information, full knowledge of their surroundings before they fully committed in, and it cost them, unfortunately. When they're in control of the point, when they were able to actually formulate those dives, it looks a lot more put together, especially on Lighthouse. We saw a really good rally coming through from Halo, really good holding of that ground from New York Excelsior, but they're not going to have the ground to hold. They're going to be on the attack up first, and Hawk coming in for Donghak means that Reign are going to be moving over towards the D.Va. So it's still dive of some sort. It's just that with the D.Va boosters, you're going to be able to just jump between the low ground and the high ground and peel for your backline as well. Should, however, set Fitz up on the Sombra, right? I want to see these damage numbers for the Sombra increase, given that you're going up against a mech that is literally just an ult battery for EMP.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big difference maker potentially for the New York Excelsior on this map. The anti-grenade did come through onto both sides. Hawk also got hacked by Fitz on the other side. Kellen trying to take some space on the high ground. Hawk actually backs out of there as the Atlanta Reign want to set up defensively. Fielder maybe on that top high ground with the Brigitte of Chiho, where Fitz waiting on that hack again hits Hawk, just being a nuisance, a thorn in the side of Hawk at the current moment. He's just able to get out of it, though. Jumps back to the high ground as Kellen also attempts to do so. They're already on this point. The hack again comes through onto Hawk through that Winston bubble as New York Excelsior regroup together towards this point. The Atlanta Reign are building up towards that nano incredibly fast, though, but an anti-grenade connects on the Chiho. However, the follow-up damage is not there, so he managed to play his life while Lip builds that EMP very, very close to it. Actually, first before the New York Excelsior build their ultimate, so we'll see if Lip gets a big one. It's huge. That's a 5-man EMP on this point. Halo immediately falls. The pulse bomb does try to come out from Seiko to trade things on the point, but it's not enough, and he falls to Chio as well. And Atlanta Reign, solid hold just off of Lip's EMP.
Yeah, Fitz was using those hacks to keep Hawk in check, and unfortunately wasn't really able to find the EMP charge to rival Lip because Hawk just kept backing out of those engagements because he was in positions to be able to peel for his backline. So the rest of Excelsior aren't able to get the D.Va out of the mech, and with that tank still up in the mix, Lip has all of the presence in the fight to be able to pull the EMP and just back towards Excelsior, and Dustin, he's already 55% to the next one! He literally just used the last fight!
I was gonna, like, yesterday, Sombra's just so broken. Sombra's so crazy, can build that EMP so fast. It's just so nuts how fast he's built the EMP.
He's about to lap Fitz in EMP charge.
No way. Could he do that potentially? Fitz, please, just look for your EMP, buddy. The nano does come through onto Halo, though, on that back angle. Also, Chio gets the nano because Fitz did EMP earlier, so nice disengage from that back line of the Reign as they now rotate in towards that point, just try to zone things out with the rally. And like you said, Lip, he's already built that EMP. An H-grenade, though, does connect. And Fitz is there with the follow-up. Lip does try to equalize it with an EMP, but is the damage there to sustain the Atlanta Reign in this fight versus New York Excelsior? It looks like no, because Seiko does connect onto Stalker as well, and nice job of the New York Excelsior did disengage Lip's EMP with a nice anti-grenade from Creative.
Yeah, Hawk unfortunately not able to use that self-destruct either to buy time for Reign to get those members back into the group. It's because Kellen just holds on to that Winston bubble so that he's going to be able to block the damage and follow through from Atlanta Reign. And Excelsior now moving forward, taking up this position, trying to make sure that Kellen denies that high ground position, but Lip is still able to find creative. The Winston went so far forward, he was split from his Ana, and Lip sees an opportunity and strikes immediately. New York Excelsior are going to have to wait now for something like a Nano Boost to be able to come up and challenge, and in fact, they only have to just turn around, back out, and deal with Lip, who again is hounding down the backline.
It's just not able to get anything done. Lip trying to get some value as well on this left side, just afforded all the opportunity in the world because of what Hawk has been doing. And now, you know, Lana Rain in great spot, Moxie, it seems like, while they have even more ultimates over the New York Excelsior.
Lip's going to be coming in with an EMP in this next fight. Kellen gets hacked out, so New York Excelsior aren't able to take Hawk off of this high ground until now. But the Diva boosters are going to be back, so you can immediately just jet right back into that position the second Kellen has to turn around and peel for his backline. And here comes the EMP. Nano Boost comes out onto Kellen before Atlanta Rain can make that first proactive move, however. And the backline entirely occupied, trying to deal with the Winston. The anti-nade will connect, but the Primal Rage is connecting onto all of the members of Rain, pushing them against the wall as Kellen has to back out and try to make sure he takes Hawk down in the self-destruct so that the Diva at least doesn't get back in the mech.
I mean, poor Kellen just trying to make everything work there, right? Came back, zoned out the supports, and then also peeled Hawk in that baby Diva form where he found him, and Lips looking for that translocator of Fitz as he's setting up that EMP in the backline. There it is, but actually hits the treasure chest, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if Fitz has that translocator because he's safe with the rest of his team. In this cart, it's getting spaced the entire time. Halo does have that. Rowley Chio's built up to theirs as well, as Creative sits at the back of the map trying to peel off, as well as Seiko then chases down a Stalker with Fitz on the low ground. They're able to just find these opening picks. New York Excelsior look like they continue to push this payload towards the end of the checkpoint, about 2 meters left, and they actually do so quite successfully. What a streets phase for the New York Excelsior.
Yeah, New York Excelsior have gotten so much more proactive, and it's paying off dividends for them, right? Even though they had to contest Hawk on that Diva with self-destruct, sending Kellen in to just keep Fielder and Chio occupied so that Fitz can build up that EMP and connect onto the members of Atlanta Rain works out perfectly for them. And they're able to blister through a place in the map where normally a lot of teams actually get slowed down. It's now Fitz's turn to camp that translocator. He's just going to be cancelled out and immediately will translocate back into his own backline just to make sure that Lip isn't trying to jump onto Creative before that Nano Boost is up and running.
Looking for the hack on Kellen on the front. He actually finds it. Stalker waiting in the wings with the pulse bomb. So is Seiko on the other side. The nade was actually used by Creative early in this fight, so they're not going to have that cooldown until just about now. While Fielder with his own nano boost, they could go first. Atlanta Rain kind of ready to go. The New York Excelsior understand that they are the ones that have to go first. Creative pops the nano onto Kellen, but doesn't really find any target except Lip. And in fact, it's Stalker to find the first target. Halo goes down in that back line, and Seiko tries to come back, but it cannot escape Stalker's grasp. The Atlanta Rain, pretty successful counter dive on Kellen's nano boost.
Yeah, and Fielder was actually hacked, so they didn't have that counter nano boost to go up against New York Excelsior. It is just shenanigans from the DPS line that forces New York Excelsior back, and that's going to buy Atlanta in a little bit more time. Not going to buy Lip back, however. They're going to have to wait the full 30 seconds for the EMP to come back into the mix. And this is New York Excelsior's time to go immediately.
Yeah, they're ready to go. They're reeling at it. The front line Fitz then setting up that EMP, but he's detected in the back by the Tracer of Stalker, who has been scouting incredibly well. And now you don't have Fitz in this fight, so the New York Excelsior have to wait for Fitz to come back. But while they do so, Lip connects with his own EMP onto Halo, and Fielder with an anti-grenade allows them to get that kill as well. And, you know, they get those kills. However, Hawk does get poked out of mech and forced to use that Diva bomb.
Yeah, Stalker being able to find Fitz in the rotation for that EMP is massive for Atlanta Rain, because like you saw, Fitz had to use the translocator, so Lip gets to come back in with an EMP entirely uncontested from New York Excelsior's side, because they just have to sit there and take it. Now, however, they have the EMP, they have the nano boost on the Winston to be able to follow up too. They just have to take Fielder down before the nano boost can come on Chio.
Oh, Stalker!
Stalker makes the first move!
What a pulse bomb. Chio also peels off. Kellen, 45 seconds now on the clock. You know, that was a good setup for the New York Excelsior, but it resulted in them just being rolled by Stalker, who is on fire right now.
I mean, the EMP too. They used the EMP in that fight, but we did not see any follow-through come through from New York Excelsior because Sokka just gets to slip forward and find that pulse bomb attachment. New York Excelsior now will at least have 4 ultimates to work with moving into this next one. Fits onto the hands to be able to use those Sonics to try to keep a track of Lip, who's going to have another EMP. And New York Excelsior, they can't give up the ground. We're about to hit into overtime. They can't pull back. If one of them goes down, they have to just keep contesting the payload.
The Nano Hanzo comes through onto Fitz to save him from Hawk that was diving on him through that high ground. And now, you have the Atlanta Rain pressuring out the side of Fitz on the low ground. Chio now pops that rally to connect onto Kellen in that backline, who has to jump out of there. But Halo does find Stalker, so that's a great pick for the New York Excelsior. They have to keep getting these picks and continuing on forward as Hawk does jump off the map because he lost the mech. So there's not tanks here for the Atlanta Rain to stall. So the New York Excelsior, they just capitalize and capture out this third point.
Yeah, it isn't overtime. However, for New York Excelsior, this is a victory. We saw that point A. We saw that potential of the full hold when Lip is able to hit nearly back-to-back EMPs. Like, absolutely insane what the guy can do. You absolutely see why he's the only player in Overwatch history who's been able to pick up 3 role stars, and he is trying his heart out. And Rain now going to be on the offense. New York Excelsior have to keep an eye on those backline channels. They cannot allow Lip the freedom of being able to infiltrate that backline and pouncing onto either Creative or Hilo, who has to be playing that Brigida, has to be going for full anti-dive measures.
Moxie, at the same time, New York Excelsior, they were, they capped out, they played it well towards the end, and they took a long time, but eventually capping out the entire map of Blizzard World is a big deal. And that was off the back of, fantastic plays from Kellen, Creative, in Psycho at times.
My worry, though, is that we're going to see New York Excelsior wait and play reactively to Rain. And that's not going to work out. It didn't work out for them on Control, where they started pulling ahead, where they started pulling that time bank back. Was on B, where they were playing proactively. On C, where they were having to play on the back foot because Lip comes in with an EMP or Stalker finds that first pick. That was where they were struggling to be able to pick that momentum back up. And now, when you're playing defensively, that doesn't mean that you play passively.
No.
You're still able to try and find these targets. We're even seeing Fitch revealing themselves to keep Atlanta Rain split, forcing half of the team to turn around so that Fielder and Chio are a little bit further out of view from the backline, as Excelsior will be able to just immediately pull back, giving that high ground up almost immediately, but making sure to keep an eye on the rotation coming through from Rain if they try and take the backline.
Just waiting on this left side, does have Hawk with him, so he's enabled to do a lot of these aggressive hacks with that defensive matrix. The anti-grenade early from Fielder connects onto Kellen and Seiko, so they back on either to get some heals, some Creative. That should give them that nano boost, ult charge boost because of that early damage they took. But at the same time, Fielder is doing a great job pocketing Hawk and building that nano so fast. But Kellen and this front line of New York Excelsior, they want to go aggressive, and it results in them getting that opening pick. However, it does result in Halo falling and Creative on that back line from Hawk and Stalker, so they're already out of the fight. Kellen falls to Fielder too, and it all falls apart at the seams for the New York Excelsior on the first point.
It's a good dive. I like the idea of it on the paper, right? New York Excelsior, they see Fielder and Gio left behind, the rest of Rain going aggressive the way that we saw on Control. And Kellen comes through, splits the team, drops the Winston bubble so that Fielder isn't able to use the Anadart through the bubble. Gio goes down, but the problem is so many of New York Excelsior's players had committed onto trying to take Fielder down. Everyone on Rain, just on the Tracer, on the Sombra, and on the D.Va, they've got self-sustain.
Yeah.
And the kills come through from Rain's side because Kellen's just not there to soak the damage and play distraction, as Excelsior now will go for that proactivity. Should be able to find fight win and chokehold coming through from their defenses now.
A big EMP there from Fitz does land on everybody on the Atlanta Rain, but they only lost Lip in that fight. They've been able to regroup towards this cart. Lip will be back in the fight momentarily. At the same time, Kellen's trying to, just pressure Hawk the entire time. You got Stalker dealing with Fitz on the low ground, forcing that translocator back. The New York Excelsior just want to keep controlling this high ground. That's going to be the linchpin for them winning this next fight. As Kellen gets the nano, they dive into that back line, and at the same time, Lip EMPs Halo here on the high ground. So nobody dead just yet because of the support ultimates of both teams. Halo still has that rally where Chio just used his in that last fight, so they're ready to go on the Atlanta Rain, who only have a D.Va bomb. Hawk is hacked, but does fly to the high ground, gets slept by Creative and anti-grenaded. At the same time, you know, they drop down below. Lip is forced to translocate back, and York Excelsior, they're just kind of biding their time. They don't want to use any ultimates on the Atlanta Reign because they know they have none, but at the same time, Atlanta Reign's gotten this cart almost to the very end of this second point.
Yeah, and this is crucial for Reign to be able to do that because Kellen from the high ground with that Winston cleave is just connecting onto so many targets and building up that primal. Creative, however, goes down to Chio with the flail, and this is Reign's time to move. Kellen has the primal rage, but he doesn't want to invest it in a fight, knowing that Reign are just going to stall through, but he's just going to have to. He gets anti-nated, has to use the primal, tries to find the pick onto Reign, uses it to be able to jump back to his team and keep this payload in limbo, but Reign still aren't able to pull it through.
EMP from Fitz, they want to just win this fight outright, even though Stalker was already gone. But, you know, Atlanta Reign doing a good job disengaging a lot of these ultimates. Fielder is hacked, and even though, you know, they do York Excelsior win this fight, I thought it was a little bit suspect for them. But, you know, at the end of it, they did a great job rotating those ultimates to stop Atlanta Reign before they capped out.
And they're going to have another rotation now. They've got a pulse bomb to try and pick off a member of Reign early. They've also got a nano boost. The problem is, Lip has an EMP, and they're spy checking in front of them. He's behind them already.
Waiting for it. Ready to go. Creative on the bridge. Is he going to wait for his team to regroup? It looks like he's doing so. Hawk, you know, slowly going to work up. They know he's here. They spy checked and detected. You heard the little Sombra fade noise to know that Lip is there, and now he drops down below, relocates to know to avoid New York Excelsior on that high ground. EMP connects Fielder with a perfectly timed anti-grenade. Immediately results in Halo's demise, and then, you know, the Atlanta Reign in a massive advantage. At the same time, you know, Fitz does get traded out by Hawk, so they tried to find Atlanta Reign's members because they were so low, but they're down so many members now. The rally does come through from Chio as well, and the nano boost is here from Hawk, so a layer of support ultimates should still result in the Atlanta Reign capturing on second point, and it does.
Yeah, and Excelsior were able to burn a fair chunk of time to try and recover from how fast Reign were able to take point A, but now they're going to have to live through these next couple of engagements. And it's a matter of how many ultimates are they going to use, right? They have all of the cards. Well, they don't have Kellen, unfortunately, because Reign are able to just track the Winston down and stop any potential turnaround from New York Excelsior in the next couple of meters because you don't have a tank. But they'll have the Primal Rage, they've got the Rally coming through, they've got the EMP. If they have to invest all of these in the next fight, Reign are literally just going to play patiently. They're going to burn you out of your ultimates, and then they're going to brute force the fight afterwards.
What they do in New York Excelsior is Kellen does jump to the high ground. Usually you see a lot of these tank players control that, or if you have mobility on Hanzo or something, that's usually the characters that control that space. Atlanta Reign just getting free cart pressure the entire time. You know, where on the defensive side, they've been able to stop New York Excelsior on their offense when it gets this far. Teams like vice versa is not the case. Hawk is slept on that front line, though. Kellen does try to dive the back and is immediately traded out. Even though he had the primal, the damage was so fast, probably didn't expect that from Atlanta Reign's team. You know, Stalker then diving onto Halo with Hawk there, forcing that ultimate, forcing the rally out. Hawk is there, but also a pulse bomb from Stalker connects onto Halo, and they're just getting staggered one by one. They're forced to nano boost Kellen. They have the dive here, but Chio's nanoed, and an EMP from Lip. This is absolutely terrible for New York Excelsior, especially if there's time left on the clock, and there is.
Yeah, New York Excelsior, unfortunately, they knew the situation that they were in. They knew that they had ultimates. They knew that they couldn't just drop them all in one fight. That's why we saw Hawk taking that pressure and trying to, or rather Kellen trying to go for that health pack, that mega pack, so that he's able to hold on to the primal in case Reign start picking off his squishies, and he needs stall potential on the payload to be able to buy the time back for the members of New York Excelsior to regroup. Unfortunately, that restraint cost them. They lose the Winston, and that opens the floodgates for Reign to just continue to pick apart and pressure these members of New York Excelsior, who without a Winston just don't have any way of target focusing the members of Reign down.
New York Excelsior, Moxie, I mean, they're looking to mix things up. They put Fitz back on the Hanzo. Did you like that comp they played earlier?
Yeah. Honestly, in my opinion, this is the best thing that New York Excelsior can do, given the fact that they're able to full push, but it was an overtime, and Reign, because they were able to full push but still had time accessing, they need like one tick of this point So if Lip or Stalker are just able to, on either the Sombra or the Tracer, move past this high ground undetected and go on to that point and pull all of New York Excelsior's focus, and because you're running Halo on full anti-dive strategies with the break flail and the shield to protect your Ana, you don't have to Lucio. Your rotations could potentially cost you one member, and when your respawn is this far away, one member is going to cost you the map.
Atlanta Reign now just gonna push through this choke as New York Excelsior back all the way towards that point. They want Fitz to get those Hanzo shots off, but you know, at the same time, they've kind of made these progressions probably a bit too fast. However, Fitz now just looking for that backline, just hunting Hawk at the current moment. Just throws the Sonic down to scout for the Sombra. Perfectly placed, in fact. But Lip doesn't even care. He knows he's spotted. Just decides to play with the rest of his team. Has the defensive matrix from Hawk, so he might as well play as aggressive as he has been. And the anti-grenade lands on the Fitz as well, but doesn't really care. Just gets to keep pressuring out Hawk on the front line, building up to that Dragon Strike. Hawk trying to find something here, but the Sleep Dart did come onto Halo, and the anti follow-up is there from Lip, but Seiko does trade him back. However, Kellen dove in the backline with no support of Seiko, so he falls in. New York Excelsior don't really have a lot of point pressure, just relying heavily on Fitz to find something. But what do you do when Stalker is playing as well as he is? Fitz drops the Dragon Strike, but nobody touches, and they land a Reign win map number 2.
It's always going to be a really tough spot for New York Excelsior to be able to recover from, right? Having more than 2 minutes in the bank for Atlanta Reign, when we saw that Lip was able to build into an EMP in something like 30 seconds, they were relying on Fitz on that Hanzo to be able to find those logs onto those members. And you can see Atlanta Reign, they have full knowledge of this. They go for the high ground rotation, even though we didn't see it when they approached the point the first time around, because they're fully aware that by increasing that distance between themselves and Excelsior, the Hanzo is going to be able to situate themselves into potentially finding a one-shot onto one of those squishies. That one-shot doesn't happen. And even though Lip is found out by the Sonic, well, they're already on the point. They already have that pressure. And unfortunately for Excelsior, the fight has begun and they haven't been able to find an early pick. And because there's only one tick needed from Reign's side, they have to throw themselves into line of fire again and again and again. And it's only a matter of time until they lose one of those players and Atlanta Reign just gets uber aggressive.
Yeah, I think Atlanta Reign as a team look amazing at the current moment. And one person that we also need to kind of call out there was Stalker. Just had an absolutely phenomenal map. And the backline also, Fielder and Chio peeling off, you know, any dive that came through from Kellen. You know, at points, the New York Excelsior do look like they can win team fights. I mean, they camped out the entirety of that map. So maybe on the next one in Rialto, they could make that reverse sweep happen. We'll have to see after a short break. Welcome back, everybody. Atlanta Reign so far are up 2-0 over the New York Excelsior, who at times look like they can make it work. You know, they capped out fully on Blizzard World and almost made it work, but, you know, you couldn't stop Hawk in the side of the Atlanta Reign, who, you know, at times just had too much dominance and not a lot of vegetables in their systems, apparently.
I mean, now we know. Now we know the answer that has always been asked whenever we look at these Overwatch League divas. Like, how do they prepare for matches that they can defense matrix over? Apparently, you don't eat veg, and then you're going in hungry to a match so you can defense matrix everything.
I don't know if we can legally recommend people not to eat vegetables.
Yeah, do not listen. Eat your vegetables. Eat your vegetables, otherwise you'll have to worry about Sombras. And I think that's something that New York Excelsior are incredibly concerned about. This was something that we were discussing in the downtime. It seems at times like Kellen is calling for aggressive dives, especially that one moment where he like pushes fully onto the back line of Fielder and Chio. But then there's just very little follow-up. And I think it's down to New York Excelsior. Like, you can see that they're concerned about the Sombra. They're playing Halo always on this Brigida to play for that counter dive strategy in case Sombra does show up, so you can at least either use the shield to block the hack or just bop him right in the face with the shield and the flail. But it does mean that Fitz and Psycho are playing a lot closer to the back line to be able to bail out Creative or Halo if either of them get into a little bit of a pickle. And as a result, there's just no follow through when Kellen is able to find those moments and look for those isolated targets.
Yeah, and it ends up overall for the New York Excelsior. That's why they're down 0-2. I mean, that's perfectly put, Moxie. For them on this attacking side, I think you're right. They just got to play with a little bit more, you know, pace, a bit more confidence, really trying to avoid lip at all times.
Because, I mean, you know you're going to run into them, especially on defense. You know you're going to run into Lip, and they're trying to spy check out to see whether or not he's going to be playing up there. Halo looking very much all around her with that shield, but it's Creative who's actually going to get hacked before they're able to just get on top of that ground and block the line of sight.
Yeah, Kellen just checking for Lip the entire time, and the Atlanta Reign just over these high ground angles and just have a phenomenal point of view. But Fitz gets slept after the translocator is gone. Oh my god, barely relocates in time, which results Kellen getting Lip. So a phenomenal sleep dart from Fielder doesn't result in anything positive for them because they lose Lip. And now in this fight, they have to deal with the pressure of the New York Excelsior, who are just running a train on this back line. Hawk is slept, though, on that front line. Stalker does trade back Kellen. So that is a decent trade for the Atlanta Reign, who now regroup with Lip, but that was very questionable at the beginning.
Yeah, but again, like, there's the dive that comes out from Kellen, but they're going after separate targets. Psycho is on Fielder, and Kellen is nowhere to be seen, not chasing after the Ana, certainly. And New York Excelsior having that split focus, it's costing them. Alone, Winston, Tracer, and Sombra just don't do enough damage to be able to chunk down these targets in time for Reign to be able to turn around and immediately exchange blows.
It's like Atlanta Reign just kind of staying over the top. Fitz goes for that hack. The anti-grenade comes through, but Fielder waiting it out with that nano, then uses it on Hawk, who dives onto Creative. And even with that peel, it's not enough to keep Creative alive. While Fitz falls to Stalker, and Stalker's there as well with that follow-up damage. Atlanta Reign just winning fight after fight at the moment.
Now, Hawk may not be eating vegetables, but he's definitely eating all of the utility coming through from Creative at the moment, because I have yet to see a single anti-nade land from Excelsior side, and that's not their fault. Like, they are trying to land the sleep duds and the anti-nades, but having defense matrix just immediately mitigates a lot of that Ana utility, which can be a ghost line for some of these dive compositions.
New York Excelsior rotate under the high ground, and, you know, Lip just waiting with this EMP onto Halo, just goes for it immediately, and they want to dive onto Halo, who gets that nano from Creative. Good counter dive as Seiko does trade back Chio with his own ultimate, and Lip in fact falls off the map because they didn't have a translocator there in that fight. So Halo and the rest of New York Excelsior reclaim his cart and will try to capitalize this first point.
Yeah, good pressure as well coming through onto Fielder. Psycho funneling up onto the Ana as well, so that they're able to take that support down. Reign will be able to hack Kellen, so no Primal coming through before Reign are able to cross the bridge and use that rally, now that they're not at worry of being flung off it.
Seems like Atlanta Reign then push towards this point. Rally from Halo. to try to capitalize on this first point. The nade or the pulse bomb comes out from Stalker, but connects onto the shield as Kellen tries to find this backline with the primal rage onto Stalker, who still has the recall, but they're touching this point. They have Hawk's Diva Bomb and they use it. Does Fielder get booped off the map? Doesn't look like it because the peel is too good for Fielder on that backline. Although, 0.34 meters left. York Excelsior trying to pressure out Chio and the Atlanta Rain on this point. You have that pocket from Fielder, who's building up to that nano boost and has it ready to go in a sec. They use it on the Hawk, but they lose Stalker. However, Hawk does find creative. They still have people here. Lit drops the EMP on this point, and it results in them stopping the New York Excelsior last second.
Yeah, New York Excelsior will have an EMP and a nano boost to be able to follow it up with Kellen getting to play aggressive dive, but are they going to be able to even make it back onto the payload? Fitz is going to be in position to be able to touch if Lip reveals themselves and tries to take down one of the squishies of Excelsior's group when they're in that reform formation. Uses the translocator, will be able to back on out in case they get found out early, as there it is. Lip finds a stagger onto Psycho, and Excelsior aren't going to have the tracer to be able to initiate. That payload contested has to be the Winston.
The sleep onto Fitz, and then the follow-up. He landed the EMP, but with no time left, it was a very dicey situation in the first place. New York Excelsior, they're going to be stopped on this first point, and that was off of the pick onto Fitz, and unfortunately for the New York Excelsior, they were so close. Unfortunately, Atlanta Rain will now move on to attack and have a lot of time in the bank to take that first point.
Yeah, and again, it's the exact same situation as Blizzard World, right? For New York Excelsior, they cannot allow Rain to just free roam around this map. And there are significant concerns that that is going to happen, that they're just going to continue to back off and give the ground the way that we saw them immediately pull away from the high ground and try to rotate towards the point when they had to defend Blizzard World a second time in a row.
Hey, Moxie. Atlanta Rain, they're looking incredibly strong. Lip, like you said, he was just absolutely a star player on the previous maps. New York Excelsior in this situation, did they try to bring back the Hanzo, maybe a sniper in this map, or no, just going to keep mirroring it, looks like it?
I think you just have to keep mirroring, especially with Hawk on this Diva. Right? You have to be able to use the Sombra and try and just deny the defense matrix for as long as possible, because so many times we would see Hawk get taken down. As we're having a look at a replay, this is Fitz setting up for that dive to come through. Raleigh comes down and it actually shield bashes the EMP, and Fitz just has to translocate out. Brigitte now in ultra wide, now unfortunately crushing New York Excelsior's hopes of being able to push past A on Rialto.
Jesus. I mean, that was just insane peel from Chio. That's why he's one of the best Brigittas in the game, Moxie. It just seems like he's consistently pulls out these plays, and also that ultimate change, it just allows Brigitte to be so strong in the current meta. Atlanta Rain have a great spot, or they're in a great spot at the current moment as New York Excelsior trying to stop them on this first point. Creative and Halo are anti-grenaded by Fielder on that high ground. So New York Excelsior want to keep backing up because they're dealing with so much pressure from the Atlanta Rain.
And again, they're giving up these crucial places of high ground. They've given up that first corner. New York Excelsior going to have to be falling back towards bridge. Creative a little bit alone, but Atlanta Rain not focusing on the Ana hand at the moment. They've pinged them out. They know that they're there, but Halo is able to move forward and intercept Chio. So New York Excelsior should be able to hold strong, at least on the high ground. Problem is, the payload's already moved almost half the distance that it needs to.
Yeah, it's just not really in a great spot at the current moment. Kellen does find Fielder. Hawk trades back Halo as well, but he just kind of regroups with his team, gives that ult charge surely to Fielder or Chio, but just grabs the health pack and opts to come back into this next fight healthy.
Well, Psycho's going to have an EMP, or not an EMP, a pulse bomb. Stalker's going to have one of his own, but Lip is approaching that EMP, and New York Excelsior have to make sure that they're positioning away from that Sombra. The problem is Halo has to play really close to Creative in case the Sombra tries to show up early before the EMP's built up. Nanoboost now from Creative will unfortunately get hacked by Kellen, so that they're not able to find that aggression that they want with that jump pack only now coming back onto cooldown. It does at least keep Atlanta Rain at bay, but Atlanta Rain already have the ultimates built up to be able to win this next fight.
Psycho coming back for that peel in that left side room. Chio does have to bash back and actually goes very aggressive. However, Kellen and that Tracer dive onto him perfectly in that back line. So Chio, Stalker both fall, and EMP from Lit. They're committing a lot of ults into lost team fight.
Oh. Hello. Both Sombras know where each other are. Both Fitz and Lit full low and have to use those translocators. So Lip at least is not going to be in position to try and build towards the EMP as quickly as possible. Kellen just sitting around that corner, waiting to see whether or not Rain try and pressure onto Psycho on this Tracer. Has the promo rate built up already. As Rain have to play poke phase at the moment. Fielder's got the nano boost, could potentially go into Hawk to try and create that space, that movement. Or they could use it onto Chio to aggressively push onto Halo.
Ready to go with that nano. They could dive, and then Hawk, once loses mech, can actually just use that deep bomb, dives that backline, but it's a bit too far, so he comes back for Fitz, who translocates back to that high ground as the support is here for the York Excelsior. Kellen was slept while Primal raging in that back line, and now Hawk eventually will lose that mech incredibly quickly, so he's forced to use the Diva Bomb, trying to remech, and actually does so as Halo went a bit too far, does get picked off by Chio. The anti-grenade did connect onto the back line, but Atlanta Rain peel off this dive from the York Excelsior too well. Psycho does eventually find Chio, but Stalker and the rest of the Atlanta Rain are just collapsing on the York Excelsior at the moment. Creative tries to stall out this Halo. Halo is here as well with Fitz, but eventually the Atlanta Rain will find both Halo and Creative. Also connecting with the Sleep Dart onto Fitz. EMP from Lip to top it all off. In the Atlanta Rain, they're eventually going to win this map 3-0 over the New York Excelsior.
Yeah, New York Excelsior, the moment that they had to try and just peel so heavily for that nano boosted Diva coming through from them, it's not just their entire backline, it's also Fitz who has to turn around and throw out that Sombra hack to be able to connect onto the Diva in the nano, so they're not able to find those squishy supports. And as a result, Atlanta Rain just gets so much more movement to be able to pick apart those players, throwing the self-destruct out as well to be able to clear up that space. And Rain, the second they're able to move through Courtyard, they have all of the control in the fight after.
Atlanta Rain just looked amazing at times. New York Excelsior did have the, keys to actually winning against the Atlanta Rain. But yeah, Moxie, I think that overall, they just looked too strong for this New York Excelsior today. Blizzard World was a decent map for them, but Ilios and then also Rialto just ended up being in an absolute dominant performance of the Atlanta Rain.
I mean, it's Lip. What more can we say? Someone is making a real good showcase for entire series MVP, but Lip too is also throwing their hat into the ring. I'm sure Desk are going to be so happy because, they're already advocating for it.
Yep. Yeah, Lip is obviously going to be our player of the match. Fantastic performance from him. And, Stalker easily deserves a shout as well. So both of these players played well. Also the back line. I mean, this was just an overall kind of team diff for the Atlanta Rain. Perfectly placed EMPs pretty much every single time. Even if they didn't get those kills, they found the pressure on that front line. Everybody was there to follow through, and they built ultimates off of it as well. So fantastic work from one of the best Sombras in the league.
It's not just the EMPs either, it's that control of the map, right? The paranoia that starts to come into play when you're facing up against such an aggressive Sombra. Going for the hacks, taking the duels. When you get spotted out, a lot of Sombras just immediately translocate. Lip will be more than happy to just take the 1 versus 1. As you can see, in 10 minutes on average, he died 3 times. Absolutely insane. The damage as well that he was able to output, 8,653 damage. That's nuts.
It is. I mean, that's just correct. Like, whenever you see down to that 3 mark, Moxie, we always notice the best, Tracers, Sombras, whoever, usually have such few deaths. But, maybe we have to see if the Atlanta Rain later on, will get tested by some of the best teams, and we'll see if Lip can deal with that, Moxie.
I mean, again, what a brilliant performance for this guy. The first time that he is playing on American soil as well with the team, having a brilliant performance, and Atlanta Rain continue to look absolutely dominant moving forward into the remainder of the season.
They have been, and we're going to a short break. When we come back, I'm sure the desk will greet you on the other side, so we'll be right back after a short break.
He arrived on the shores of North America in a Hannibal Lecter-style case, shipped over by Moon, a special acquisition of Coach Gator himself, and now North America is having to deal with the 8'9" gaming warlord on the daily. Previously, North America, they were insulated from this terror. He was simply a phantasm in the night that only really came out to play during those international tournaments. Now, every single week, a team is going to have to suffer at the hands of Lip and the Atlanta Reign, and that gives a lot of room for fear because this guy has got it all. Oh, Lip! He's got the Cassidy, he's got the Hanzo, and crucially, he has the Sombre.
Lip immediately pops it, hits all of Saints, and there wasn't even a chance.
He is the phantasm in the night, only he's also real. This night terror, no matter what your therapist says, he can hurt you.
And he's underneath your bed right now.
He's behind you.
Don't look.
If you say Lip 3 times into the mirror, he will in fact appear. That is a
He will
fact.
headshot you.
I gotta be real with you. I'm not going to watch, but I am terrified of Lip, and so should you be.
That was a spooky one.
That was a spooky one.
We're spooked.
You know, we're all into character building, and he's apparently turned out to be like the Omega villain. It's pretty scary.
Under your bed.
He's right now.
Hold on.
Wait
his name in front of a mirror 3 times.
And he will appear.
Yeah.
Facts.
We'll try it later.
Yeah, we try that later. But first, let's talk about it. I mean, Atlanta Reign, dominant performance here. No big surprises there. But there's still a few players that you want to highlight especially.
Yeah, I think Lip, we obviously mentioned him a lot, and we got to appreciate that. But as well, I've got to highlight Stalker on the Tracer. I think Lip really, you can't underestimate the importance as a main DPS of having such a solid Tracer, winning duels on the flank, keeping the pressure off of you. That just enables Lip to constantly be looking for his maximum value. That's exactly what you want as a main DPS. So I just want to highlight this combo of Stalker and Lip. Lip is a super important element of it, but without Stalker, they wouldn't be nearly as consistent or threatening.
It's just honestly quite boring the way Atlanta Reign just approaches the game because they play this slow diva. They play like Brig for healing around with your team and Ana with bio-nades, heal people up. And then they just let Lip and Stalker cook. Like they're just playing this slow kind of like composition. They're beating down Kellan on the Winston. Kellan doesn't have a chance on Winston. He just gets harassed all the time. Psycho doesn't stand a chance in the Tracer duel. So Atlanta Reign, they're slowly just like rolling over their position and making it so difficult for New York to stand a chance in this matchup. Exactly what we expected, dominant performance from the Atlanta Reign. And I think we'll see a lot of this the rest of the season.
I will say there were some moments for me from Hawk, especially on the attack with D.Va. You know, just sometimes it can be hard to break those setups with D.Va. So I wonder is it going to be an Achilles heel for Atlanta that, you know, it's kind of clear, oh, we're going to play D.Va, we got Hawk in. We're going to play Winston, we got Dongak in. It can work, but I think against a top team, who knows? Maybe that is some glimmer of a weakness.
Maybe.
Take notes, teams out there. Like, take notes. What Professor Jake says. Now, we do, of course, have our favorite Nightmare Fuel standing by for an interview. So, Danny, please take it away.
Thank you, sorry. Yeah, of course, the scariest person in the Overwatch League. We got Lip right here on the big screen. Lip, 안녕하세요. 들리시나요?
네, 안녕하세요. 들려요. Hello, hello.
Hello, alright. Can you quickly just say hello to your fans? 자, 일단 인터뷰 시작하기 전에 한 말씀 일단 이번 이제 시즌 첫 경기였기 때문에 인사 한 번만 해주세요.
일단 저희가 이제 이번에 애틀란타 오피셜 선수 오피셜이라고 많은 사람들이 기대를 했었는데 이번에 프로암 대회에서 좀 안 좋은 모습을 보여주면서 끝내게 돼가지고 정규 시즌 걱정하시는 팬분들도 많았을 텐데 그래도 첫 경기를 이제 좀 수월하게 이겨서 좀 다행이라고 생각을 합니다.
Yeah, I know a lot of our fans were very excited to see when they first heard the Atlanta roster announced. But unfortunately, in the Pro-Am, you know, we were going strong, but we weren't able to win the whole tournament. So I know a lot of our fans were sad about that. And they were also worried because after that, we were coming in with a loss and starting our regular season. But I'm just very glad and happy that we got our first win today. Yeah, you know, actually, I do want to follow up on that, Lip, because throughout the whole tournament, you guys, I think it's no question that Atlanta Reign is a very strong team. You guys are a stacked roster. Pro-Am was going great, but then you guys did lose to who did they lose to?
Could have been anybody, Davey.
I think it was. Wait, let me ask you. You guys lost to the Gladiators. That was right. So what sort of went wrong in the pro-am? In the match against Gladiators. 자, 방금 말씀하셨던 거에 이제 그거를 첫 번째 질문을 제가 한번 할까 생각을 합니다, 립 선수. 프로엠에서 굉장히 좋은 모습을 쭉 이렇게 보여주시다가 아쉽게 글래디에게 패배를 하면서 프로엠이 끝나게 됐는데 그 경기에서 좀 어떤 문제점이 좀 있었나요?
일단 선수 간의 소통도 좀 원활하게 이루어지지도 않았고 그다음에 저희가 아무래도 좀 서로 다른 팀에서 막 2, 3년 이렇게 있던 선수들끼리 모여서 좀 많이 플레이 쪽이나 스타일 쪽 부분이 좀 서로 많이 안 맞았던 것 같아요. 그래서 그래도 지금은 좀 시간이 지나면서 맞추려고 많이 노력하는 중이에요.
Right. I think the biggest problem that we had in the pro and the result that the reason why we lost to the Gladiators were two things. I think one of the biggest issues was the communications problems, and also, you know, a lot of the current Atlanta Reign team right now, we spent 2 to 3 years in different teams, so we had our, I guess, stylistic differences that we couldn't sort of come to terms with. So I think that is why we lost against the Gladiators. But you know, after that, we made a lot of effort, and we were working very hard to sort of narrow those stylistic differences, and I think we are, you know, showing progress. I do agree as well. I mean, you know, unfortunately, you guys did lose to the Gladiators, but I mean, you guys are just stacked roster. You guys are just killing it. I mean, for this matchup as well, NYXL, like you guys were popping off. I do want to talk about, I guess, we know that the Atlanta Reign team is a great team, but I want to know more about your personality, like as a team. Atlanta Reign, Lip, who would you say is like the, I don't know, funniest person on the team? Who would you say that is? 자, 뭐 당연히 아틀란타 팀은 뭐 당연히 실력적으로는 굉장한 팀인 걸 모든 사람들이 다 알고 있기 때문에 실력 말고 조금 더 이제 성격이나 팀 자체의 좀 재미 요소를 좀 더하는, 좀 팀 내에서 제일 재미있는 선수가 있다면 좀 어떤 선수가 될까요?
굳이 그러니까 저희가 다 막 예를 들어 막 광대 막 이런 팀원들은 없어가지고 그나마 뽑자면 호크인 것 같아요. 그냥 호크가 뭐 연습할 때든 뭐 대회할 때는 좀 재밌게, 좀 재밌는 상황이 있으면 더 재밌게 만들려는 상황이 많아가지고 굳이 뽑자면 호크인 것 같아요.
Yeah. I do want to say that there's not really a I guess, class clown or someone that really loves to like make jokes, but if I have to pick a funny person on our roster, it has to be Hawk. Even when, you know, it's a serious situation, he sort of likes to lighten up the mood and really have fun in the games as well. All right, I'm going to end the interview right there. Lip, thank you so much for your time, and again, big congratulations on the win. 자, 인터뷰 여기서 마치도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다, 립 선수.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Lip. Congratulations, of course, once again to the Atlanta Reign. First W on the board. Hope to see many more of those. Love the insight there as well he shared about their loss to the Gladiators. Seeing, of course, so many star caliber players always raises the question. You know, they all have an idea of how the game should be played and how they want to play it. So being able to like end up on the same page can be very difficult. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people are worried about Boston Uprising, for example, because, you know, you have a lot of big names. Right. Can they mesh? Will they mesh? Right now, Atlanta Reign, of course, looking good. Also good to know that Hawk is the emotional cheerleader and, you know, brings them back down and makes everyone feel good. Speaking of good things, I got something for you watching. Oh. That's right. We've got another bundle. Want to take a look at? There we go. Legendary skin for Zarya. It's a rock climber skin. You don't see it right now, but Jake's face lights up like it's Christmas
want this
when he
one,
sees
man.
that.
So enthusiastic.
I want this one. Finally, there's a climbing skin, man. I mean, for all the climbers out there, any gamers, you should try rock climbing. It's a fun activity.
I feel like a lot of gamers got into rock climbing. I feel like that's like a trend, like a gamer trend.
Yeah, it's a good trend.
It really is. Yeah,
I don't
dexterity
get it,
in the fingers.
No, it makes total sense. Let me explain.
It's dangerous.
No, it's not that dangerous. Just safety
Depends on
equipment.
where
What if you
going.
fall?
You don't.
You're not free climbing.
Yeah.
You're not free soloing.
People get that idea. They see that movie and they're like,
It's
oh,
like, oh,
I'm going to
God.
go climb El Cap without a rope? No, please don't do that. Like, really don't do that. Nobody does that.
I don't get the goal. Like
You know-
whoa, I climbed. Like, why?
It's a physical activity, you know, balancing out gaming as a hobby, but also it's fun. You know, it's very cerebral. You got to make a lot of decisions. It's very tactical, and so I think for gamers, for me personally, I always found that to be so enthralling. And now you can represent it in game with the Zarya bundle.
Yeah, for just
you can't
300
rock that skin.
tokens, it can be yours. And you should grab that skin before May 9th because Well, he's not into it. Okay, well,
I don't get it.
We'll go to the gym.
I don't
We'll go to
get
the
it.
gym.
If you want to climb for survival, we're talking.
John,
like
he's so
escape
tall,
a lion.
He just
like,
grabs the top.
I get it.
He's like, I'm here. Like, what are you
I
guys
can
doing down
unleash
there?
some
Like,
hyenas.
like some plastic clay climb? Like, no. Like, what are we doing?
Okay, well, just an absolute hater of the climbers out there. Yeah, hit him up on social media and tell him
Don't
how
do
he's
that.
just wrong. Because, no, it's
That's
at
zombie.
Reinforce on Twitter. Make sure to hit him up. I want to take another look at our schedule to see what game is coming up next. We already talked about it. We already teased it. This is potentially the title match of the day, I would say. Is that a boxing thing? I'm just
Sure.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go with that. Houston Outlaws Gladiators. Big names, big teams, great rosters this season. Lots of expectations, of course. But if we really want to look at the stylistic difference here, that could be a big one for this one, because I think we're going to see a compositional mismatch here, potentially.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if these teams are actually mirror matching. We do see Fearless in the lineup. No surprises there for Outlaws. Very likely they're going to be able to run a Winston meta. And probably also this double flex support comp could come into play, although Violet, of course, has the flexibility to bring out the main support if needed. But Fearless, this guy is terrifying. Yes, Gladiators were able to overcome it in the Pro-Am, but in my opinion from that series, I think Houston kind of let that one slip. I think they will be able to take this one.
Not enough for you. Seeing them lose, just like, no, they're still favored. I still think they can win. But yes, this is the meta for the Houston Outlaws, arguably. There are a few different compositions I'd love to see this team on, but the current one we're seeing a lot of, like the Sombra and Tracer in the previous matchup, Houston Outlaws is going to be really good on that one, so.
Yeah, but Gladiators, right? I mean, the big strength of the Gladiators, Dante's Ramatra was terrifying.
Yeah.
Like lip-level terrifying. Not that he plays Ramatra.
No, but it was as terrifying. It was.
It was as deadly, is where I'm going with
Dante
this.
is in your back line. He's throwing punches with Nemesis form. Yeah, Dante played majority of the time Winston, but in this specific matchup against the Houston Outlaws, the big problem for the Outlaws were they couldn't stop Dante when he was playing the Ramatra. Shu on the Ana, he couldn't land the sleeps required to set Dante back. And so going into this matchup, I think it's a similar story. Can Houston Outlaws stop Dante on that Ramatra?
I think Kevster as well is a huge threat to highlight, especially if the Outlaws want to run a double flex support comp, want to play the Winston. Those heroes really, their one weakness, if you're going to play that comp, is a dominant Tracer, and there's not many players more dominant on the role than Kevster.
Well, on the other side, we do have, of course, Pelican. Also, nothing to slouch at. So let's take a look at the direct stat comparison between Kevster and Pelican. What do we see here, guys?
Well, they're fairly even matched. I mean, Kevster, he is a back-to-back Roll Star damage player, so that just speaks to how good he is. I would argue, though, that Pelican, he's had a couple of years in the league now. We've come to know who Pelican is. And it's about time that he starts competing with the likes of Kevster for that Roll Star award. Very evenly matched if you take a look at the Tracer stats from the entirety of the Pro, and we can see that Pelican dies slightly less, Kevster hits slightly more pulse bombs. But it's such a small difference, really, Jake, that I think these are kind of evenly matched, and in my opinion, this is Pelicans for the taking. This is when he needs to show up and make a name for himself.
I mean, these are great stats for Pelican. I think Kevster is absolutely on the elite par for Tracer, and so if you're keeping pace with Kevster, you're in exactly that same category in the elite tier. And Pelican, I wouldn't even say Tracer is like his most comfortable hero, his best role. So the fact that he is that good on something that might not even be his peak only speaks to his quality as a player and his flexibility.
It's not time. Unfortunately for you, Jake, because I know this one is tough for you to predict. We do have to hear predictions. You have to pick a favorite to win this particular match. Starting myself here, I went with Houston Outlaws just because Fearless will forever live in my golden frame. Like, I cannot bet against Fearless in a Winston-centric meta. That's madness to actually do that. Yes, Dante looked good on that Ramatra, and yes, that comp worked really well for the Gladiators. But it's also obvious that they might do that, because I don't expect him to actually trying to mirror against Fearless on that Winston comp, and if they do, I just don't think they would have the upper hand.
Yeah, I also went with the Houston Outlaws, exactly the same reason. I think we're seeing a lot of Winston dive competitions being played on most of the maps, and if it's Winston-centric, I guess, gameplay, then I mean, definitely I have to go with the Houston Outlaws.
you know, my prediction.
Wow, where's he going with this, guys?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
See the drum roll?
I can't
Dante
wait.
and Lastro, my good friends. I've got to predict the Outlaws. You guys mentioned Fearless.
Wow.
That's a very relevant point, but I'll also say agree. Tracer Sombra is a great look for the Houston Outlaws. I think the supports really shine in a dive meta. It's very important they not only stay alive, but output big damage. And I mean, a player like Shu able to play Ana, I think he's the best Ana in the world. I just think this roster is stacked head to toe in this meta. So yeah, Houston Outlaws.
I'm stunned. I'm stunned. I am.
Johnny.
Wow, that's crazy. I went with the Gladiators for this one. Come on, the answer is easy. They beat them just a few weeks ago. They beat them in map 5. LA Gladiators should be the favorites going into this matchup. So yes, I understand so many great names on the Houston Outlaws roster, but they got beaten just a few weeks ago. I'm going with the team that won the last time. It's the LA Gladiators for me. Kevster, show up.
You know what I love the most about your pick? If you're wrong,
You're one of us.
Welcome.
then I'm eating predictions.
I'm not worried in the slightest.
Oh, Zoe will take the lead. True.
I'm not worried in the slightest.
All right, confidence. We love it. We hope the team is matching that confidence, and we are ready for all the action. It is going down between the Houston Outlaws and the LA Gladiators, and for all the action, we're going to once more bring in Dustin and Moxie.
I think I'm with Johnny here actually a little bit here, Zoe. I mean, like overall, they have proven to be the runners-up in the Pro-Am. Very good lineup, very good team. But Moxie, I bet you're probably leaning towards the Outlaws, which, as the desk mentioned, have a lot of fantastic names.
I mean, you were casting me all the way through Pro-Am. Like, you heard me gushing about Outlaws and the backline and the survivability as well. The amount of times that Tracer players tried to infiltrate into that backline, and Shu and Violet just turned 180'd and sent them packing within seconds. Like, I lost track of it. And that's going to be something that Gladiators have to do. The thing is, I'm expecting this to be a long match between both these teams.
Yeah.
Desk said it. It was a rematch. Gladiators did win, but it was after 5 maps, and a lot of it was down to Dante pulling out that Ramatra. And Desk, I agree with them. I think that Ramatra is expected, and I think Outlaws have been preparing to be able to take it down.
Yeah, I think they really have been. And for this situation, we'll have to see if they can actually do that. I mean, like, obviously, you know, maybe it's a difference maker having Jake on the desk instead of in that war room for the Houston Outlaws. We'll have to see if they can actually make those adjustments and deal with the Gladiators, which are, you know, still a great team in their own right.
Wow, you're really doing Jake dirty as well when we've cut away from Desk, so he can't even return fire.
It's a compliment because he's not there. The Outlaws are way better, right? Or worse. I mean, no wait, oh no! Well, okay, maybe I did diss Jake a little bit there on accident.
I was gonna say, how is that a compliment?
It is. It may be not. Okay, yeah, you're right.
It's not opposite day today, Dustin. That's that's not even a backhanded compliment. That's just mean. As Gladiators and Outlaws, they're going to mirror. Dante is not going for the ramp. They're going to mirror. And okay, you know what? They're going to be happy. They said that Gladiators could struggle, and a lot of them predicted Outlaws to come out on top.
You already have Dante jumping up to support Lastro on the high ground, but Babel with that early pick onto Happy, I mean, that's the benefit of running this Kariko, is you can find those headshots and get that opening pick that you need. But Pelican trades it back. He does find Lastro on the high ground, and Babel just being able to support Dante through this high ground is incredibly crucial for them. But that bubble and Outlaws rotating towards this point kind of give them the edge, and they'll take that point first.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about the benefits of running the Kiriko. Benefits of running the Echo, you can just drop down and annihilate one of the members from Gladiator's team. As well as being able to use the beam to just chunk through that Winston shield too, given the nerf that its health bar is on now. It just makes it so problematic for those Winston players to deal with.
Pelican just kind of coming back now. Actually comes back for the peel. Happy did trade back Kevster. Nice job to come back and peel for the Dante Winston and Outlaws. Very, very fast team fight win for them.
Shu building up that nano boost. Violet's keeping pace as well with that Brigitte rally. The problem for Gladiators is that they don't really have the nano boost build up because Lastro's come under so much fire coming through from Outlaw's side that he hasn't been able to sit back and build the nano up when Dante is taking damage, and as a result, Outlaws will have it up while Gladiators don't, and they're the ones that need the initiation.
Yeah, they already have to save Dante with the Suzu, but it's not even enough to save him. I mean, Outlaw is just pressuring him out, just getting that damage onto him early and removing him from the fight. I mean, that's just too much damage for your Winston to be taking in the current situation.
Oh, Yaki gets found out as well, and Gladiators, without that Winston, they just have to go for the full reset. Lastro, because it was Dante who was taking so much fire, hasn't got the nanoballs built up again. Gladiators this time having to rotate all the way around the side of point and rely on Kevster being the one to open the way for them.
Kevster with that pulse bomb. Does it connect? No, he unfortunately misses. And because of that, Pelican on to Lastro gets that kill. Yaki's forced to use that EMP, so they do get Shu, but this point is still ticking in favor of the Houston Outlaws. Kitsune rush from Babel, but at the same time, Violet has used that Brigitte ultimate. Eventually, Dante does find him, though, as Pelican just trying to find that primal rage in the copied Echo form, but Dante pressures him off of that point. However, Outlaws are still in this fight. They still have this point under the control, and they're still here with a Fearless ultimate to stall it out to 99, but they don't even worry about the stall because Happy connects onto Kevster in that Tracer duel as Fearless is just finding this backline, juggling them all the way back to their own spawn, and what a dominant round one for the Outlaws.
We said we were concerned when we saw it was the Winston mirror matchup coming through, and the concern was there and valid. Houston Outlaws able to just pull apart Los Angeles Gladiators every single time before those fights began. So much pressure coming through onto Dante, so he just wasn't able to build the space for Kevster and Yaki to be able to try and bite into Houston Outlaws' backline. Now as we head over to Sanctum, however, you can move away from the Winston. This is what we were expecting to see coming through from the Gladiators, right? Dante going onto the Junker Queen, you're going to be able to react incredibly quickly to when Outlaws plays aggressive dive, just brawling into Outlaws' backline when Fearless is chunking down Gladiators.
We'll have to see if it works. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, you know, we've seen so much of this Tracer Sombra so far. It's been very, very strong in the meta, but Pelican, in fact, going to lock towards that Genji. So a little bit of variation over here, but the Gladiator is locking a Soldier, being able to just run all the way around, take that rotate for Houston Outlaws' backline. They're trying to find Shu. That is the target of this rotation. They go incredibly deep. Dante is hit with the anti-grenade, though, so it should stop them for just a second, but Lastro was left as well, so Outlaws doing a great job disengaging it, throwing that sleep dart in to stop the push. Again, another anti-grenade into Dante. They just keep connecting full onto the Los Angeles Gladiators, but it's actually them that come out on top. Kevster connects onto Fearless, and the sleep dart onto Dante again. He's just taking every cooldown from Shu, but it does not result in the Outlaws winning the fight. In fact, the Gladiators will win the first one.
Yeah, it looks a little bit dicey, right, when LA Gladiators are able to run into that side room. The problem for Houston Outlaws is that they have to push in on Dante, who's going to just use that Carnage on cooldown to connect onto all of the members of Outlaws. If they try and pressure LA Gladiators, and will be able to take Happy down early into the fight as well. So Outlaws aren't going to be able to use something like a hack to push Gladiators off just using this chokehold the way we saw that last fight go. Using the side room, using the close engagement, forcing them into the Junker Queen damage.
Gladiators just sitting at the choke. Dante ready to rotate with Yaki, and this is their time to go. They already get that Jagged Blade onto the Winston of Fearless, and Kevster opts to just wait, trying to do a little bit of a crunch onto the Outlaws, but actually, in fact, rotates back towards team. Incoming Junker Queen ultimate from Dante, but Pelican finds two, gets Kevster, finds Yaki with that nano boost. Doesn't even have to use a blade. That's what a lot of these really amazing Genji players do well, is just not use the blade, just nano boost damage, find those kills, and the Outlaws will surely flip this point.
Yeah, as a result of not using that blade, it is a little bit of a slower fight, so Gladiators are able to stall to nearly 50%. But like you said, they are going to be going up against that blade and EMP in the next engagement, and that is going to put a magnifying glass on Lastro's sound barrier. If he uses it too early, it's going to get stripped away by the EMP, but if Pelican uses the blade and the EMP when the sound barrier comes through, Glad still lose the fight.
Happy's ready for it. There's that EMP, like you mentioned, just connects onto everybody of the Los Angeles Gladiators. Fearless actually finds Yaki through it. However, you know, the Gladiators aren't out of this just yet. They do have Kevster over the back with attack visor, but he's jumped on by Fearless. Just finds him with the Primal Rage. Can also look for that Lucio, and Outlaws, that's already one successful hold for them so far.
Pelican still holding onto the blade as well in this next engagement. Kev's now off of the soldier. He's not going to get immediate access to those side lane angles to pressure Atlas as they come through the choke. Instead, he's onto the Tracer. He knows he has to be the one that goes through the chokes, infiltrates the backline, and forces Shu and Violet to turn around, thus pulling Atlas' attention to their backline and away from the frontline brawl that Gladiators are trying to get back into motion.
They actually just rotate all the way around the point, trying not to focus on it, just looking for those early picks with the Death Blossom of Yaki. But Pelican with that blade is ready and reeling to go. Lastro and Dante are also hit that by the entry, and so they can't get fully healed. Pelican pops the blade out, but doesn't find a target immediately until Lastro shows his face towards the point. So they get the Lucio player of the Los Angeles Gladiators. They also pop that Kitsune Rush, and surely they'll find the pickoffs here on the Los Angeles Gladiators. The hack comes through onto Yaki. They actually don't want to pressure too far, so good disengage by the Gladiators.
Gladiators not able to pressure that rush, though. Yaki would have been able to use the Death Blossom, but they're all stuffed up towards that side lane. No one can get onto point. As a result, they will have the Death Blossom now. Yaki has to use the Ray Form, however, goes incredibly low. Won't have it to infiltrate into a position to use the Death Blossom, and has to now use the TP to be able to contest the members of Atlas in the backline. But he gets slapped. He's now going to be able to use that Death, connects onto one before he goes down. But we're in overtime, and Gladiators cannot afford to lose any more members.
No, they cannot. I mean, Yaki tried his best with that Death Blossom out of the Sleep Dart, but Dante commits his ultimate. In fact, falls all the way back as Happy's forced out of the fight temporarily. Fearless goes incredibly low, but the peel is here for the Glads until Lastro falls to Happy, and Pelican just kind of still alive, 1 HP over the top, eventually falls to Kevster, but Babel already gone as well. Yaki is here with Kevster, and you never want to count these guys out, especially Kevster, but he's in a 1 versus 3 on the point against the Sombra, Kariko, and Anna. Yeah, eventually he falls, and the Outlaws, amazing map number 1, they win it.
Yeah, it looked a lot cleaner, I have to say, from the Gladiators when they moved away from the mirror and they started just running the Junker Queen, something that's their comfort pick rather than trying to match Outlaws in a game of chess, essentially, right? And we know Fearless is just one of the best, if not the best, Winstons in the world. Shu and Violet more than capable of being able to keep him content and happy. So seeing Dante move away from that Winston allowed not just Dante to be able to survive a lot longer, but also Lastro and Babel to be able to get a lot more effective utilities connecting onto their members, and then that has the domino effect of allowing Kevster and Yaki a little bit more room to be able to run. So hopefully moving forward, Gladiators are going to take what they learned on the first 2 control maps, and they're not going to mirror this Winston dive anymore.
Yeah, I think that they obviously, like you mentioned, probably don't want to mirror that Winston dive, but at the same time, you might have to in the current meta, so they're stuck in between a rock and a hard place, kind of like in Season 2 of Overwatch League when people, didn't know if they wanted to run the full tank composition versus, a lot of Pharah, Widowmaker, a lot of those DPS characters. But on the next map, we'll see if they attempt to mirror the Outlaws. The next map is going to be Hollywood, but before then, we're going to a break, so we'll be right back before Hollywood.